The Flynn's, there's a story about the original Flynn. His name was John Flynn. And he supposedly, as a kid, I don't know how old he was a teenager. He decided to stow away on a ship and fell asleep. And by the time he woke up, it was too late. So he had to be a servitude to the captain for so many years. And then he finally settled. He came up through Pennsylvania and settled in Belleville, West Virginia, or Wood County, as known today. In that area, he settled in Flinn Station. But then, during he was the settlers, they were fighting with the Indians, and he had to settle in the Belleville area, and that's where my family lived. But some of them, like my great-grandfather, settled in Parkersburg, and that's where he raised my grandpa and his side of the family. But it wasn't that far from Belleville. It's in the same county, same area, just the city of Parkersburg. Now, there's a story that my paternal grandmother told me over the phone that her father-in-law was Silas Flynn, was murdered in 1932. Now, in the clippings, it has his name, and I have him right here beside of me. It says Cyrus Flynn, probably fatally wounded. He died the next day. Shooting happened January the 15th in 1932, and he died January 16th of 1932. And he was shot by his next-door neighbor, William Madison. William Madison did go to prison and was convicted of the murder of my great-grandfather. My great-grandfather is buried by Parkersburg High School. I don't remember correctly what the name of the cemetery is. I think it's K&P. It might be a different name now. But if you know where Parkersburg High School is, you know the cemetery. That's where my family lived for generations. My grandfather's buried there. My great-aunt is buried there. My great-grandmother. I have a great-uncle that's buried there, but I don't remember his name because I wasn't close to that family. Now, I do remember my great-grandmother. She was still alive when I was 6 years old. I'm just going by what I remember of her. My great-aunt, the one I'm talking about that's buried beside in the same area where my grandfather was, her name was Eileen Gertrude Tibbs. She married into the Tibb family. They lived on Swan Street, and it was an old Victorian home. I remember it having a lot of rooms. I remember my great-grandmother, they called her Granny, sat in a chair and had a scowl on her face. And she was close to being 100 years old in 1983. But that's my memory of them, of her. I have a little bit of memory of my grandfather, Clarence Argyle Flynn, but not much, because he wasn't around. He didn't raise my dad or his siblings. He never met my dad until he was 3 years old. He rolled up into Work County, where my grandmother raised her children and where she's from, and her name was Elsie Mae Copeland Flynn. And she raised her 7 kids in Elizabeth, West Virginia, or the outskirts of West Virginia. She's buried along with where my dad's buried at Bethel Cemetery at close to Old Elizabeth Hill. The New Elizabeth Hill, Old Elizabeth Hill, Rose Hill, I believe in that area. That's where they're buried at. And like I said, I remember having a little bit to do with it. My aunt. Her name was Eileen, but we called her Nine. I remember having a little bit what we did with her. She did watch us a few times in our childhood. But that, when Clarence died, I never cried because I didn't know the man. I was very close to my grandmother, and I was close to her side of the family than I was, her mother was still alive, and she died when she was close to 100 years old in 1987. But like I said, my family comes from that's my side of West Virginia. Now, this side of West Virginia has no coal found in it. The areas that my mom came from, no, and her family, her mother, her parents, no coal's found in them either. What you'll find in these counties of Calhoun, Ritchie, and Wirt and Wood is oil, gas, timber, manufacturing, and farming. And a lot of these, the Flinns also were Union soldiers, and they helped create West Virginia and become the state that it is today. But that's where I was raised at myself. I was raised in Vienna, but it is a suburb of Parkersburg. And Parkersburg is one of the largest counties and the largest cities in the state of West Virginia. And that's my family heritage. And I was always taught to be proud of my heritage of the Flynn family. And we were, like I said, being Union soldiers, help creating. If you learn about Parkersburg, it stayed loyal to the Union, and it had a big significant part of becoming the state, and stuff like that.